So if you're looking to get down to 10% body fat or anywhere below 15% body fat, you probably already realize that there is no quick fix, and you probably also realize that it takes much more than just setting some calories and macros. I mean, you really need a system at the end of the day that will allow you to be consistent and also enjoy the process. And what I want to do in this video is I want to share with you a set of rules that will help you get that lean, and these are actually rules that I personally use as well to get to 10% body fat. And actually this video is part 2, a video that I've already done where I shared 5 different rules, and I'm going to link that video in the description below. Very helpful. I definitely want you to check that video out after this one. And my hope is that these rules will help you stay more consistent, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to get abs overnight. It's going to take work. It's going to take time. And I want to make sure that you're in a good headspace, that you have good strategies and tools and tips, as well as a good system at the end of the day to really enable you to get there, as well as make that a sustainable lifestyle change as well. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. First tool that I want you to implement, especially if you're between 15 and 20% body fat looking to get down to 10%, is to diet on as high of amount of calories as possible. I see a lot of people starting in that body fat percentage, looking to get down to 10, under eating from day one. They're starting at 15 or 1600 calories, and where do you go from there? Where do you go when you need to make the next adjustment? Are you going to go down to 1200? What's going to happen? And it also makes their diet unsustainable beyond the first few weeks, because as soon as ghrelin goes up, which is your hunger hormone, as soon as leptin goes down a little bit, you just really start suffering. And then you're suffering for 5 days, and you have a massive cheat weekend, destroy all the progress, and you kind of rinse and repeat, and you feel really bad about that. You're essentially kind of training yourself into failure. You're training yourself into this whole unsustainable approach. You're building a habit around that as well. So don't do that. Make sure you set your calories to as a high of amount of calories as possible, while still losing somewhere between 0.5% to 1% of your body weight per week. This is where walking helps a lot to improve your energy expenditure, so you get to eat more while at the same time getting leaner. You're also going to have much better time with your training, so you're going to have a high chance of actually building some muscle, especially if you're a beginner and intermediate, while losing body fat. So do not undereat. Set your calories appropriately, and you're going to have a much better time on your journey. Now, before we dive into the second rule, I would really appreciate if you go below this video right now and show your support by hitting that like button as hard as you can. It means a lot to me, helps with the algorithm as well. And now moving on to the second rule is always overestimate the calories when you eat out by at least 50%. And this rule really helps a lot, because it kind of gives you a rough idea what's happening. And if you think that a meal has 600 calories, it probably has 900 or even 1200 calories. Generally, whenever I prepare something at home and when I actually break it down, when I eat it in a restaurant, it has at least 50% calories above. And it does help you to overestimate, because eating out, you don't really understand what is actually inside of the food. I mean, the goal of the chef in the restaurant is to just make the food as tasty as possible, so they don't really care about your macros and your cut and all the stuff you have as your goal. So they're going to add a couple tablespoons of oil. They're going to add some sugar on there. There's a lot of stuff that's happening. So general rule, overestimate by at least 50%, and you probably would be even better if you overestimate by 75%, just to be safe. If you really want to dial things in, if you start losing too fast, you can always tone it down a little bit, but I would start as a general rule of overestimating at least 50% of the calories that you eat out. Now, rule number 3, adjust your food environment to match your psychology. And what I mean by this is that if you're the type of person that you can have a cookie or you can have a couple bites of chocolate and you're okay with that, you can actually stop, you're in control, you can be flexible, you can moderate on the diet, and you're fine. That's totally cool. But if you're the type of person like me, where, for example, if I have a bite of chocolate, I'm going to have the whole thing. Maybe not then and there, but maybe a few hours later, I'm going to actually have that food motivation. As soon as I open the door, I'm going to start craving more of that food. And then I have 2 choices. I can either use discipline to discipline myself, and it's going to keep depleting me, or I can eat the food, or I can throw away the food, which I obviously don't want to do. Now, you have to know your own psychology here, and this can be actually quite tricky if you live with people who have a different psychological profile, or people that don't have the same goals. So if your spouse isn't dieting, and maybe your spouse is a moderator, for example, and you're dieting right now and you like the strict rules, you have to arrange the environment with that person so they have access to their food, but you don't have access to their food. Maybe you don't know where it is. To really have to think about this, because I know there's a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're just not disciplined enough, or you just don't work hard enough. Look, I work really hard. You probably work really hard, but I know my own psychology. I understand what my weaknesses are if I'm very stressed out, if I'm working really, really hard. I don't want to be thinking about it. I want that simplicity. That's what rules give you. They make the decision for you, and you don't have to think about it anymore. And I prefer to not think about things like this. I prefer that the decision is already made. I prefer to follow through, and that enables me to be a lot more consistent and enables me to focus my energy and my attention and my willpower on other things that I need to do that are much, much higher leverage. So I highly recommend adjust your food environment based on your psychology, and you're going to start seeing much better results with much more consistency. Now, rule number 4, if you experience a really strong urge to eat, calm down and see if you can wait it out. And what this does, it allows you to distinguish the difference between physical and emotional hunger. Emotional hunger is the one that comes really strong at you. It's fast, but it also goes away fast. Physical hunger progressively gets higher and higher throughout the day. And by knowing the difference, you're going to prevent spending your calories on emotional hunger, which will simply not work, because emotional hunger is a void that you cannot fulfill with food, because really what you're looking for there is something else. And food is just a coping mechanism there. For example, if you're working really hard, you've just done 3-4 calls and you're in a very anxious or a heightened alert state, you move away from your computer or you just start walking around, you start going for food. That is probably a situation where you're just looking for a state change, just looking to relax, just looking to get away from work. It's probably not a situation when you're physically hungry. And you spending calories there will actually start affecting your eating patterns. It's going to start affecting your consistency with your meals, and it's actually going to impact your overall consistency with the diet, because you're going to spend the calories there, then you don't have the calories for the other times. So you got to be really careful with this. You have to know how to recognize the emotional and physical hunger. So in that particular case, maybe you just needed to walk around the house a little bit. Maybe you just needed to take a breather. Maybe you needed a little bit of meditation. Maybe you just needed to get away from work and do anything else but eating. Because again, emotional hunger is not going to be fixed by eating. If you need to relax, eating is really an inefficient tool to do that. There's other ways to do that are much more efficient and much more in line with your fitness goals. So recognizing the two makes a dramatic difference for your results, because you then allocate the calories when they're really needed. And by the way, if you love these rules, if you like more rules, I can make even part 3 to this video if you prefer it. I'm going to link the part 1 in the description, so check that out. Subscribe below to get access to more videos like this. Do make sure to hit that like button as well. Details for coaching are in the description if you want to work with me personally as your coach, so check that out, and I will see you in that next video.